what's up everybody? Jeff Godbold here with Godbold Exotics. This is part 3, but I'm standing here with Ryan Wolleson. Visit here has been really cool. Figured we'd save the best for last, and that is some coverage of his Amazon basins and northern emerald tree boas. So I'll be honest with you, this is the first time I've ever seen any in person, and I am absolutely blown away by these.
So the one that you're holding, Jeff, is actually, that's the female there. And that's from Ed Marino's Diamond line. That one is a little younger than this male that I'm holding. It's a little more textbook kind of look to this male. They're both Ed Marino produced these two.
Stripe.
Yeah, so I'll be pretty excited once these guys get old enough to pair up, because they are definitely, like you said, pretty amazing.
I can't get over. I mean, I've seen a lot of different species of snakes,
right? Yeah.
And boas in my lifetime, and I don't really have words. Like, it's just something about these basins, and even some of your northerns, that they just fascinate me and just blow me away.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be. I mean, there's just a huge difference between the northerns and the basins. You know, people always, foo-foo them because they're so expensive, but I mean, until you actually see one in person and have one in your hands, they're pretty amazing snakes. So
yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get this in. Sorry guys, I'm trying to get this, but this is a really cool, we've talked about this with Amazons, but arboreal species, they have a prehensile tail. So if you look at this guy or girl, see how they've got their tail wrapped completely around the perch?
Yeah, that's what's doing it here as well.
These guys are ambush predators, so they're going to sit in the treetops and they're going to find a skinny little perch like this, and they're just going to hang down and wait for something to crawl underneath. So they can pretty much, regardless of age, support their entire body weight by wrapping this prehensile tail around this perch. Amazon tree boas do it, green tree pythons do it. You'll see it with some Morelia species as well. So some of the carpet pythons do it. But it's really, really interesting, and it's something that you even see with some of the arboreal gecko species. I just absolutely love this. I think this is so, so cool. Obviously, your intent, I would imagine, is to get lots of these and to breed them.
This female here I haven't had her for quite a year yet. This male I've had a little over a year. But like I said, the male is almost 3. This female here is just a little over 2. They're still kind of new to me. They're similar to the northerns, but they just totally have way different attitudes to them. And
they're so placid.
Yeah, they're really pretty chill compared. Now, you talk to some of the basin breeders and they'll tell you that, well, that's not always the case. So it's always definitely depends on the animal. But
let's get a closer shot of that head. There's a lot of black on the head. I don't know if you guys can see it, but like pull it away a little bit. There you go.
Yeah. So this guy was actually the sire to this animal was Flagstaff. So I don't know how much y'all are familiar with Ed Marino's basins, but his one male, I mean, he sent me a picture of that animal and I was like, okay, you can send that male to me. Because it is amazing. I mean, the amount of dark green that you see on this animal, he's pretty much like that all over.
So is one of the reasons that they're so expensive the fact that we're working with like a limited gene pool, since these guys come from Brazil and Brazil's closed off to exportation? Right. Is that one of the reasons, or are they just really hard to breed? Or
the limited number is for sure one reason. I think the other reason is if you compare a lot of the captive bred basins to some of the ones that first were coming in, I mean, there's a huge difference in the amount of white on them, the amount of, like the diamond line, a lot of the lines that, both Ed Marino, Steve Volk, some other big breeders have really worked on. It's really just night and day difference from, what they first started out with. So, it's a lot of real selective breedings. And I mean, it's a lot of effort put into trying to get these guys to where they are. The thing with emeralds is that they can really only breed like every other year. So,
right.
A lot of these other snakes, people are producing them basically every year, and they're keeping animals, they're holding them back.
How big are their litters?
So they can have up to, I think with northerns, Rico had up to like 20 out of one litter, 10, 15, sometimes up to 20,
Mm-hmm.
but usually right around 10 to 15 mark there is usually about how many babies you'll get from these guys.
They even have a different feel to them.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of comparing them to my Amazon tree boas, and they're kind of smoother.
Yeah.
It's like a velvety.
Yeah, that's exactly what a lot of people describe them as velvety.
Hey guys, if you guys have any experiences with Bateseye, Corrales Bateseye, make sure you leave a comment below and let us know what your experiences have been. We're always learning on the show, and I don't work with this species, and Ryan's just started to get into them. Definitely leave some comments. I think it'd be, really cool to see what some of the experiences have been with other people that keep these guys in greater numbers.
Yeah, and the one thing about the emeralds, and this guy in particular, this male, he just loves, actually, this perch right here. So if you look at that up close, that's his favorite perch right here. And they just really love these thin perches, On my the page that I have, that's one of the things when I find, wild emeralds in the wild, I always take a picture and post it on the page, because it's really cool to be able to actually look at their natural habitat, kind of see what perches they prefer. And that's, something that I think we could all really look into as keepers, is not only what do you like, but what does your animal prefer? And, each one's going to be different. So it's one of those things you just want to make sure to kind of pay attention to what they like. So.
Right. And, it's funny you bring that up, because it used to be for years, everybody said, for adults, you want to get something that's kind of similar to the girth of the animal. And
right.
That's so false.
Yeah.
Like that's,
yeah.
Like even I used to keep chondros exclusively. And when I kept chondros, like almost all of them would want to go for the, I used radiant heat panels.
Sure.
So they'd want to perch on the cord.
Oh, yeah.
The radiant heat panel. They love the really thin perches. You can see some of the animals around here. None of them are perched on, none of the cages have perches that are not even half of the width of the largest part of the girth of the animal.
Right, yeah, they really prefer like at least half the width, and some of them way smaller than that even, so.
What do you say we pull out some northerns?
Yeah, let's put these basins back and we'll go to that.
Guys, I can't really tell you the level of excitement and giddy schoolgirlish feelings that are running through my body right now. Your animals are awesome.
Thanks, man.
Especially, I mean, they all are, but this female, she has these like yellow specks like on the sides. I don't know if you guys can see that. I can see it on my end. Look at the white. Seriously? It's just stupid. It's just stupid. Look at that. Let me see if I can get her head around. We are not getting tagged because these animals are supposedly pretty placid. Yeah. Otherwise, it would be a completely different video.
Yeah, so these two animals were produced by Rico Wilder, Signal Herp. Most people that know me know how much I love my Miss Willie line stuff, and that's what these two animals are. These are actually brother and sister here. One of the things that Rico did is do some line breeding of this Miss Willie stuff. The results are just amazing, and so that's kind of what I'm trying to reproduce here. This year. So I've had these two animals paired up since about January. They've been copulating off and on. I'm just kind of waiting on ovulation at this point. Hopefully all goes well with these two. But yeah, they're just probably some of the largest northerns that I've ever had.
How do you turn around, dude? So do you have names for your animals, or?
I don't, but some of like these two animals came from other guys that this male is from Chris Wolf, and he named him Titus. I just stuck with it. And then this animal over here came from a buddy of mine out in Texas, Curtis Lala, and he actually called that animal Mrs. Hyde. So I just kind of stuck with that.
Does that mean that she has like a dual personality?
Yeah, right.
So she can turn around and just light me up?
Well, he had a male that he used to call Dr. Jekyll, so that's why he kind of had the two of them. So yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Do you think they'll come off the perch? Explain to us a few differences between the northerns and the basins.
I know it's kind of funny to say this right now because we just showed you these little tiny basins, but the basins are actually larger than the northerns, just in general. The other thing about them is the pattern. The northerns have this like lightning bolt type pattern down their back here, where the basins usually have a dorsal all the way down the midline. And then kind of depending if they're, textbook, they'll just have lines. But if they're more the diamond line stuff, they'll have wider lines. The other thing is that if you look at the head of the animal, they have these scales on top of their head. I know you can't probably see that very well. But on the northerns, towards the snout, they have really large scales, where the basins have really small ones that go all the way up to the tip of the nose. And the other thing that we haven't really mentioned yet, these animals are actually being messed with at night.
Yeah, look at the yellow. Yeah, guys, this is at night. We just have purposely kept the lights on tonight so that we could mess around with them. This is the first time I've ever held a adult northern.
Yeah.
I'm praying that I don't get tagged because I know how big their teeth are. I am just blown away. Like I was saying with the basins, I just don't have words. I've held a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of stuff. This just takes it to a completely different level for me. Just making sure.
Yep.
One thing with these guys that you got to be careful of is overfeeding, right?
One of the things that happens with northerns, and basins for that matter, actually really any arboreal snake, is that if you get them used to just sitting on the same spot, that's where they feed, that's where they, they don't really move a whole lot, they can get really obese really quick. And one of the things that you want to watch, especially if you're looking to breed, is, keep your males really thin. The males are really active the thinner they are. I mean, I've bred males to females that are almost twice the size of the males. So that's one of the things that you really want to watch. You got to remember that these guys live, on a perch that's half the width of their body, really, and even smaller than that. So they're really not as large of animals as I think people think. I think in general people see or hear the word boa and they think, oh, these are going to be really large animals. They're really not meant to be. And, they'll really pack as much weight on as you'll feed them. And so you just have to really watch that.
I think you see that with a lot of different species.
Oh, yeah, right.
They've evolved to be opportunistic. So if food's going to present itself,
Yep.
They're going to take advantage of it.
Yep.
What are some different localities of these guys?
A lot of the wild caught stuff you see coming in from either Guyana or Suriname. I mean, everyone's always after the high white. The animals that have just a ton of white markings on them that are really pure all the way to the head. You also see, the anaconda phase. So instead of these white markings, they'll have dark markings. So they'd almost be black in certain areas. That animal is actually similar to the patternless one that's found in Guyana. That one's actually from Suriname. There's a few people that work with them, and I know there's a few people currently breeding them right now. And I know Rico used to produce litters of them as well. It's just kind of personal preference and what you enjoy. Each one's slightly different. Like some have a lot of yellow. I've seen animals come in with like yellow down the sides of them. And, unfortunately, there's really still a lot to be done with northerns as far as, just variation and different looks and so on. So
guys, you guys have heard me preach this time and time again with my Amazons about them getting a little bit of a bad rap. Here's a perfect example of some animals that everybody says are super, super quick to bite and they just want to tag you. And I've said this once, I'll say it again. These animals that you're seeing that are really aggressive, a lot of times the only experience that these people that are spreading, this information, they're basing it off of some wild caughts who are fresh out of the wild, and their only exposure to humans has been really rough and poor. And, you get a couple generations in, and you can tell that you can, of course there's an exception to the rule, but you can breed that out of the animals. Like these guys are extremely placid. They're showing no signs of aggression. They're just kind of being curious and checking out their surroundings and checking us out.
It's really just what they're used to. If you work with them at a young age and they're just used to always being messed with, then that's a different situation. But
so are they that hard to keep?
No, I think one of the things that people think is that they need a lot of heat, and they actually are really 82, 84 basking spot is really about as hot as you want to keep these guys. And then they always love a night drop, so into the 76, 78 range there. One of the things you do need to make sure to do is change out your water. I mean, these guys, it's pretty amazing. As soon as I change out a water bowl, almost that night, you know, if I change out in the morning, that night when they're out cruising around looking for food, you almost always see them down in the water bowl. They just love their fresh water. And one of the things that you really want to make sure, especially with, you know, retained urates and stools and such, that a lot of these guys tend to have problems with, is really more so due to hydration as well as just activity of the animal. The changing out the water is really super important. You know, some animals, especially when you first get them, they might have just kind of that shell shock look to them. You know, they're stressed, they don't really want to move a whole lot. They'll usually find a favorite perch and just kind of sit there and not really move a lot. So with those animals, I think one of the things you want to consider is elevating your water bowl, or just at least getting it close to that animal, because, you know, first and foremost, we make sure that you keep them well hydrated. And then once they kind of start to acclimate, start doing a little better, and, you know, maybe you'd be able to not have that there. But, you know, first and foremost, always want to do what's best for the animal. That's one of the things to also think about. They have a pretty bad rap for, you know, regurgitation and so on. The wild-caught animals can just harbor a few different diseases and parasites when they first come in, and so you want to make sure that you take care of those, and you actually get them screened to kind of know what you're dealing with. I mean, if you don't understand what the problem is and you treat it, you never really know if you took care of it. You want to really work with your veterinarian as far as that's concerned, to kind of just give them the best overall chance as far as the wild-caught animals go. And I mean, that's not to say that every wild-caught animal is a horrible animal, needs all this medical attention, because quite frankly, I've had wild-caught animals that I've had screened for fecals and health checks and just came in really rock solid from day one. And so it just really depends on the individual animal and like what they've been through and so on. So
I was talking to you guys about the prehensile tail, regardless of age. She's got this thing wrapped around my wrist and she's just hanging. It's amazing how strong their vertebrae is, you know, that they can just support themselves. And they really are an evolved species that is set up to thrive in a heavily rainforested wooded area, because they are an ambush predator if ever there was one. How old is this animal here?
That's an animal that was born in June of 2016.
So you guys can see my hand.
And I keep my animals pretty small. It was born in June of 2016. That animal is from one of my Willie line females, paired to an animal that was produced by Tony Nicolai that has a lot of merino line on the one side, pretty much strictly on the one side.
I love your cages, by the way.
I like to put a lot of pothos and stuff in them. I keep my room heated, so it kind of gives me a few options as far as what I can do with each individual cage. It's more, I mean, like Ed Marino does the same thing, and you know, we always talk about it. He always says that, you know, he treats his room like one big cage.
That's the way to do it.
You know, that way you don't have to. It's a little probably more expensive, but I kind of feel like they do a little better. It's just my personal opinion, but.
Do you have a red one that you could pull out?
Yeah, let's see if we got a little baby here.
These guys are just so amazing. Look at that white. I never understood the people that wanted to take a green snake and then make it a different color. Like, why would you want to mess with these? They're like perfect the way they are.
Yeah, so here's a baby, and this one's from last year's litter.
Oh man, that is so cool.
Everyone always asks, well, how long does it take for them to turn green?
So what's the story on this one?
So
You guys can see the size difference compared to his hand.
Yeah, definitely a considerable size difference. So this animal was actually produced by two of my long-term captive animals.
So both of them are, both the parents are wild caught.
Both were wild caught. I've had the female for about a year and a half, 2 years now. The male I've had pretty close to the same time frame, about a year and a half. And the funny thing is that the male, I mentioned this a little earlier, is half the size of the female.
Wow.
So if I actually have him paired up over here with this female this year. And so
I'll grab a little, I'll scan over here to these guys.
it's pretty much the same size difference there, where that's the male there, and then the female's to the right.
Just so you guys know, this is not the pair we had out. Now these are the two long-term captives?
Yeah, this is another pair. The first animal that you just filmed was the male, and that's the sire to this animal here. The dam is up top there, but it looks very similar to this one.
Wow.
One of the things I've done with my tubs is these are 15 quart Sterilites, the 1563 models. They have these little grooves right here. So one of the issues with emeralds, especially little ones, is you don't want the perches rolling. You don't want them doing any of this. So I actually hot glued the end of this. If you can see that, it fits right down inside the edge of that ledge there. And so it makes it so it doesn't roll. Plus, you can just slide them right out.
How busy that one's pattern is. Ryan, I'm impressed. You've got a top-notch collection. It shows that you take care of your animals. Like,
Yeah, and that's a litter mate to the green animal that you were shooting earlier from 2016. So all these animals I held back. There were 6 of them, from that Willie to, you know, that Nikolai male. Like I said, has the merino line in it. And so I'm just working to try and produce some really high white animals, and so that's why I decided to keep all these guys.
I don't blame you. Oh, get my shadow out of it. Wow. Awesome. You've been watching Godbold Exotics. Thanks for tuning in. This concludes our visit with Ryan Wolleson. Really want to give a shout out and thanks to him for opening up his home and letting me come in here and film and see his collection. And
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
all the time and energy we've put in, you know.
Oh,
and
yeah, for sure.
It's been great. It's been a real treat. I hope you guys really liked it. If you've got any suggestions or any comments, any questions, make sure you comment below. Hit the like button. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe. It goes without saying. And if you'd like to get some exclusive content and have a stake in helping out with the channel, head on over to our Patreon page and pledge your support. Starts at $1 a month. Every little bit helps, so we really appreciate it. And until next time, guys.
We'll see you later.
No, you've been watching Godbold Exotics.
You've
Until
been
next
watching
time.
Godbold Exotic.